Hey, Huntsville First Family, this is Pastor Byron again. Just wanted to do some more clarifications or answer some more questions about the little booklet that you received in the mail recently. Remember, if you haven't gotten one of these booklets and you'd like one, call the church office, contact the church office. We can get you one of those little booklets. So one of the questions that I've heard a few different times in different ways is, what happens to the campus, to the church's facilities, to the properties, if a church were to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church? Fearing that the denomination would seize the properties and assets, and then the church would just be left without those, would have to buy them back or go through some other cumbersome method. That's not really the agreed upon method for disaffiliation. So I just kind of want to just lay that out there for us as a congregation. There is a paragraph, 2549, I believe it is, in the Book of Discipline, wherein a church, where a church's campus, I guess their assets, their facilities, do go back to the annual conference. But each annual conference, the church's properties are kind of held in trust for the denomination. I don't see that personally. I don't see that as a sinister thing as much as I do with a kingdom focus. You know, each of these churches were founded for the purpose of spreading the good news of Jesus Christ in the context where they sat. And so, when a church's course of ministry is done, then we give thanks to God for all the good that has been done there, all the disciples that have been made, all the transformation that has happened in the community. And then those facilities do kind of get entrusted back to the denomination, not to be necessarily liquidated or sold or pocketed or anything like that, but really to be reinvested in the kingdom work of God. So 2549 is kind of that paragraph, but it's usually, I would think, that it would be usually used in a church closure. The pathway that our annual conference has agreed upon for churches to disaffiliate or to no longer affiliate themselves with the United Methodist Church, whether that be to go to another Wesleyan or Methodist denomination or to become an independent church, is a paragraph that's called 2553. It was passed at the Call General Conference in St. Louis in 2019, and it was set up with this specifically in mind. It was set up with a time frame ending at the December 31st of 2023. I think it was set up with that time frame because the expectation was that the 2020 General Conference would provide some clarity for an amicable way for churches to separate from the United Methodist Church, and then we would have that means by which churches could do that, and so it wouldn't be necessary for it to continue past the end of 2023 because we would have something new in place, and that kind of makes sense to me. And so that pathway ends with the end of 2023. And now, churches who do leave with using paragraph 2553, they are taking their properties, their facilities with them. The whole campus is I mean, it doesn't get up and move physically, but on paper it moves from one denomination to another expression or to another experience or embodiment of denominational polity. And so there's a process or a means by which this separation takes place, and it's something that I guess I spelled out in the booklet. It does take a church vote of all professing members, and it's a 2/3 vote, so it's kind of a supermajority vote that would be needed in order for that departure to take place. But it would also take a period of discernment. Now, what we're in right now, I would not call this necessarily the period of discernment as much as it is a period of information. We're just trying to get some good information out there so that then we can move into the next steps together and figuring out what is the best decision for Huntsville First United Methodist Church. But those churches who have utilized paragraph 2553, at least my understanding is, have been asked to pay to complete the year's apportionments and then pay a year forward, have been asked to pay what would be their portion of the pensions for clergy persons going forward. And I think they projected this forward X number of years or something like that. And so there's a defined number that goes together with that. So those are the two monetary numbers that go alongside of that separation. And then there would be a vote of all professing members. That's at a church conference. And again, that's after a period of discernment that would be kind of like an official period of discernment after you've had a conversation with your district superintendent and perhaps even the bishop. And so that's paragraph 2553. That's the means by which most churches are leaving. And did you notice that I didn't say that the properties, the campus downtown or wherever you are, that would then revert back to the United Methodist Church? No. That paragraph, that means of separation that was passed in 2019, was passed in such a way that I think the desire was that it would be an amicable blessing, a blessing of churches to go and to find the place where they can be the most fruitful. And so that means that taking your building, your assets, your campus with you into this new reality was the most caring way to do that. And so that kind of made sense. I hope that this sort of clears up a little bit. It may just make it a little bit more foggy. And if so, we hope that what we continue with in the next videos will help us to understand this a little bit better. Remember that my goal in this is just to help us to set a base, a floor of understanding and of knowledge and of good facts so that we can kind of get this out there and all have some of the same information so that then we can move into the next steps together. All of this should be bathed in prayer. And so I encourage you to pray. Today is the day of Pentecost as I'm filming. And so on the day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit fell. And so it wouldn't hurt for us, would it, to pray that the Holy Spirit would guide this whole process, whether our decision is to stay in the United Methodist Church, to leave to another denomination, or to become an independent church. Really, it all depends. It all counts on us remaining faithful to the call that God has placed upon us, to be an influence in the community around us so that others might know Christ. And so I invite you into this season of prayer and pray that the Holy Spirit would come and fall on all of us and lead us into these days ahead. Blessings. Amen.